This is the Sacred Knowing of Viz video series with Tisziji Muñoz, interview number 11B. I had some additional questions covering chapters 90 through 104. First question, are all the laws of creation are already built into each of us? And if so, how do we activate them?
I think the fact is we are each born with a potential of universal intelligence, universal consciousness. And then it becomes a matter of making that the issue, making that the focus, making that your purpose. When such a condition of potential or condition of inheritance or a condition of karma, if you have it, or a condition of some kind of intuition or realization, then the balance relative to one's life karma has to be dealt with appropriately. Because if you have too many other things going on, it's going to be really hard to access that potential. It's going to be hard to access the powers of creation unless you have some kind of alignment set up, some kind of base for it, some kind of foundational purpose to it. And then you have to draw from that. In other words, some people have to change their lives in order to access that which is within themselves. That needs certain conditions in which to, let's say, blossom, in which to be activated. And similarly, and to the, let's say, to the contrary, then you could have the potential and then be in conditions that can be adverse to that process. So you can have a tremendous amount of creativity and be in a family situation or a relational situation, a marriage situation, where what is going on there stifles the creativity, suppresses it, undermines its proper, say, functioning as such. So it depends on the conditions, but each one of us has great potential under relative conditions. No doubt.
Is all forms of knowledge built into us, and how do we access these?
All levels of knowledge, because knowledge is universal, and we know very little about our brain power to begin with, and we use very little of it, basically and obviously. Then we need to have some connection with purpose, and then be open to having more knowledge for our own benefit initially, and then for the benefit of other peeps ultimately, so that we have an expanse that we can work from of, let's say, awareness and a higher, let's say, selfless purpose through which to bring even more knowledge into play, being then potentially of service to more people. So we have access to the knowledge. Sometimes it occurs spontaneously, sometimes it arises as a result of mishap or calamity or some kind of shock. Sometimes you can get it activated in school, but sometimes it's just with you from birth. You can emerge from the womb with a sense of what that knowledge is, and then carry it with you, or cultivate it, or develop it, or destroy it, depending on your purpose and your function, as you go along. So we all have equal access to it, but we all do not have equal need for it, and that's pretty much the issue, I think, for most beings who are relatively disposed to surviving out here, making money, not making money, doing this, not doing this or that. And so it's really a matter of how much focus the individual can bring to some of these higher levels of knowledge and higher levels of experience, and maybe even higher levels of realization. But firstly, you have to have a higher level of your own potential. That helps.
We know that there are evil actions. Do the higher or godly beings see these actions as evil or as something else?
Well, they are basically recognized as evil or harmful or painful or destructive actions. But seen from a higher viewpoint, they're just actions. They don't have a certain kind of value beyond the point. See? And it's the same with certain people who reach a realization after having experienced all kinds of negative and dark and crazy experiences, problems, disasters, catastrophes, tragedies, say, losses, sorrows, grief, and all the rest of that, they awaken into a whole other dimension. Yeah. And when they awaken into this dimension, let's say bliss, peace, clarity, or realization, spiritual realization, nothing's bad. Nothing happened that was bad as such, because everything led to that. So it's a paradox. It's a paradox. So let's say if there was such a thing as a God, would the God see what it created as bad? Obviously not. It doesn't see it as bad or good, it just is what it is. The universe is creating things not so much because they're bad or good, but because that's its nature. See, to spontaneously create and continually create and decreate as a matter of fact, scientifically and spiritually. So the good and bad really is something we have to deal with when we are in that level of consciousness where we don't know any better. See? Where we have to use the balance of good and bad to figure our way from point A to another point along the alphabet. See? And when we reach a transcendent level, let's say beyond good and bad, where we are just working from the heart, which is an example I often give, the heart doesn't make mistakes. The ego does. Right? The emotions do. The negative makes mistakes. It brings pain. We have to judge what it is we have to do by the results of what it is we've been doing and seeing where that has brought us. So we have to be the judge of that. You do good, you see good coming back, you have a key there. You hurt people, you see more pain coming back, you have a bridge there to consider, getting beyond. You have a bridge out because you know better. You see the logic of it. See? So if you want to access happiness, you have to be happy, in a manner of speaking. If you want to know what peacefulness is, then you have to be peaceful.
Since all tests and purifications ultimately end in realization, is there any point to trying to accomplish anything spiritually?
Well, just because there may be talk and teaching about an ultimate realization, that ultimate realization is not elsewhere. It's kind of like the issue of, let's say, having hell and then heaven somewhere else, some other time. Now, these things are, let's say, cultured into us to create this division in us. When in fact, when we look at it more closely and we start to evolve and, let's say, purify ourselves, become clear of our negative energy, we start to see things a little bit differently. See? We start to realize that the higher is already here, always already here, the heaven is present. See, it's to be seized, it's to be leapt into. See, it's to be acknowledged and recognized and then realized. See? Know itself for real. You have to know itself for real and make it part of your life, that heaven is presence. Heaven is goodness. Heaven is love and peace. And all higher positive, say, characteristics and attributes, being majestic, being generous, being kind and loving, all of these things are part of the heavenly presence. And so we can channel that goodness, compassion, mercy, or we can channel much less than that. And then as a result, feel ourselves in a darker place. So we have to own up to our capability as mediums, as channels, of either the positive or the negative. And if we're wise, for the sake of our kids and our people, and for the sake of our legacy out here, we'd go towards the good. We want to keep doing things in a manner of speaking that helps other beings. Now, that may not be popular in this society, in this culture this time. It's all about help yourself. Yes, you have to help yourself first. And once you get to a certain level of development, then your helping yourself enables you to help other peeps. And we keep the goodness being conducted in the manner of, let's say, communication with other peeps, in the manner of actions, relative to other peeps that are centered in the heart. And then we're on the right course. We're then on our way to becoming heart beings and making what this is out here as purgatorial earth a heavenly place to be in, because we're bringing the light to it by way of our, let's say, openness, see, and receptivity to the higher forces that are present and always available to each and every one of they know how to access them and use them for their practice.
Is the search part of the higher realization?
The search is part of the higher realization. Yes, it is. It is not the realization, but it is part of it, being open to it. There's some who are so enturbulated, so, let's say, in darkness, so hopelessly in pain and suffering because they're born into that. Yes, they need to know what else there is out here. See? They need to know that there is light out here, that there is a positive, and that there is, spirituality and these sort of, let's say, realities, because you can't see it when you are that embedded in the negative. So there has to be an understanding of the duality, and then the paradox of the duality, and that, as I was saying earlier, that what we're looking for in terms of the search is always present. See? And there are always going to be moments of that we forget about our suffering and feel that there is goodness here, there's light. See? So as long as we can move forward with a sense of there being light, and the light enables everything else to be happening, the light gives everybody an opportunity to keep doing what they're doing, and even to the degree of expanding and furthering everybody's purposes and causes, then that light, if you follow that light to where the light is from, right, the source of the light, then that will help you to stay in a better place, regardless of what your debt is on this planet, to other beings or to yourself. And that is an important insight to have, and a recognition that is critical for the survival of many who are out here. They need to know that they are part of that light. Even when you're at your worst, you're still part of that light. Whatever you're into is going to pass. Whatever happens is already passing. So you need to know these things for your guidance and your hopefulness. See?
Are we searching for the truth or something beyond that?
Well, at first we're realizing that there can be a search. At first. Depends on what your suffering payment has been, what your debt has been. You got to come to terms with the fact that you are here to suffer. Feel it from childhood. Experience all kinds of things that show up as suffering. Needing this and wanting this and desiring this and not having that and can't doing this, can't doing that. And so we are in this predicament, dilemma, see, of darkness, self, limitation. And we are, in some cases, given an opportunity to grow by way of proper parenting, where such knowledge in small doses can be given to even a child, that they are full of light, they are full of grace, and that there's goodness, and that there is wisdom, see? And that there is a way of painlessly encouraging children to grow up. If it's possible, it depends. It's not always easy to do that, where you can bring them some sense of peace right away, if you can find peace in yourself. So I think the advantage of having peace right away and up front really makes the search disappear as quickly as possible, because what you're searching for is relief, and what you're going to be relieved of is yourself. So if you can start working on a proper understanding that self-limitation, self-meditation is something that is unnecessary, because we are also simultaneously selfless beings. See? And we don't seem to feel that and know that well enough to start to advance and progress in certain ways that beyond any doubt help us to realize we are in progression. See? We are accessing a higher state. See? We're feeling the inner, let's say, life force well up in us and inspire us, see, to do great things. Yeah.
With the condition of human nature full of limitations and negative programs, when and how, if ever, can one get close to what God is?
Well, we have to say, well, what has been God known as, whatever God is, right? The great, the same mystery, the great beyond. Yeah. Well, we would say fundamentally you can start with love. Not particularly desire, but desire is part of it, no doubt. You can find love through desire in some cases, but not necessarily as desire. Desire might be a link to it. See? We desire peace, we desire happiness, we desire freedom. We desire wisdom, we desire understanding, and we desire knowledge, we desire recognition, we desire advancement, we desire unfoldment, we desire excellence, we desire greatness, we desire having power, we desire all of these things, and they can be, let's say, a baby step towards opening and expanding our consciousness into the spiritual. We can desire the spiritual. But if your desire is such that, well, you want it brought to you, you want to have it at 8 o'clock in the morning in a package for you, ready to use, and that's a dream. That's something that has to come from within you. So you're looking in the wrong place for what it is you're searching for. And that's what we need to come to terms with. What it is always within us. And we have to know how to access that by stopping being neurotic. This is critical. Being our worst enemy already. You need to come to peace. You have to find a way to come to peace and accept that you have an inner universe that if you do not recognize it soon enough, you're going to miss your opportunity to get anything out of it. Because you're spending so much time away from what that is, outside of what that is, ignoring and denying and maybe even defying what that is in your own case. See, the spiritual is subtle within us. Sometimes you have to talk to it, sometimes you have to appeal to it. Okay? But always recognize that it's there, and it's your responsibility as an individual to find out how to quietly access that. See? And make it real for yourself. Yeah? Find the right people to help you do that. Yeah? They're around. Yeah? Ask for help. Go where people are learning how to access it for themselves. Yeah?
If you get to a plane of wisdom, do you have to do something with it?
If you get to a plane of wisdom, that means where you enter this dimension where everything becomes obvious in terms of wisdom that's spontaneously springing from your inner consciousness, where you become wisdom aware, where wisdom shows up by itself in the midst of all your situations and problems, where it just pops up. You just know and you relax because the wisdom is something which brings you some kind of peace, right? It's the knowingness that brings peace. It's not a thinking process. It's not a thought process. So this is important for all of us because we are, by our very nature as humans, obstructing the processes of coming into, let's say, resonance with this wisdom fact. See? When we get to that place where we are on balance with the wisdom, then the wisdom will start using you. It's not what you do with wisdom, it's what it chooses to do with you, and that's the key place to get to, where you are channeling the wisdom that's given to you from the beginning, but you didn't know that, so you had to wait until you properly aligned yourself with it, so that you had an opportunity then to feel the beauty and the majesty and the flow of what the wisdom is in your own case as it applies to other peeps. So you need to take wisdom or open to wisdom within yourself when you can get to that plane of functioning and operation for the sake of others, your family, your loved ones. See? So you can help others beyond that, see? By wisdom. That means bring them peace, peaceful word. Let's say word of understanding. See? That brings peace, that leaves you feeling peaceful because you've heard something that is so true, so real, that it brings peace to you instantaneously. Say, there it is, that's true.
What do you do when you know you can't go an inch further on the path without falling apart?
Stop struggling. Stop fighting with it. Just relax. Stop fighting with it. You're fighting with yourself in every case. You are frustrating yourself. And you're not reading the signs and the indications that are given to you. See? To slow down and not tear yourself apart or wind yourself up into a pretzel. Bend yourself out of shape. See? There's a relaxed approach to creativity and great accomplishment and perfection. So it's relaxing into peace, but you have to know how to do it. You need to know what the conditions are that are part of this process that enables you to unfold. See, not just find a little relaxation and then enabling you to resume your neuroses. It's not about relaxation and neuroses. No, this is about the power of understanding and realization of an entirely different plane of reality that is part of us, that's always already at peace. How do we get to that level? See, that level is in us. You have to be firstly quiet enough to ascertain for yourself, prove to yourself that you have access to that level. See? Yeah? And that level is a natural state, and you go to sleep into that level every night. And when you're at your best during the day, you're at peace in that level. You just don't understand it as such, you're just chilling. But you might just be chilling in a state of peace that you need to understand properly. See? And then you might need to own properly. So you say, wow, I want to be this way all the time. I don't want to just be this way for a second or a few minutes. That's of no use. And then be a nervous wreck after that, and proving what to anybody, bringing what to anybody, see, spreading what to anybody. See, we need to be that peace, the beauty of peace, see? At peace, and still be, let's say, sublimely created people, see? Supremely knowledgeable people, see? And at peace all the time. Okay,